5, Andrew Haley from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. He is ranked #1 in the Commonwealth. He qualified second this morning with a time of 104.64, but his major goal is to get the world record. It's the men's 100-meter
I fought with everything that I had.
Andrew Haley of Canada.
I hate to tell you this, but the cancer is now in Andrew's lung, and it was spreading.
Fairly close to be able to challenge for it.
And it's easy sometimes to get dejected and down and feel, why me? Why is this happening to me?
Mr. Haley will be able to stay right with him. And
As long as you have a dream and you get outside your comfort zone,
Canada has the lead, but
you can accomplish anything.
it is going to be Andrew Haley. Goal for Canada! Tremendous win by Andrew Haley.
You don't have to conquer the world. You just have to conquer your world.
03.07 for Andrew Haley.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm so excited to sit down with Andrew Haley. Andrew, hey, welcome to Born to Climb.
Oh, so amazing to be here, James. Thanks for having me.
So listen, you're on a mission, and you say it's to help people and organizations commit to their gold medal moment. So tell us about that. What is someone's gold medal moment?
Essentially, it's just a way to make sure that you're giving your best self. You know, you're following your dreams and you're following what you can accomplish. When I say gold medal moment, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win a gold medal. That means that you're going to go after whatever you feel is your pinnacle of competition, of results, of achievement. So for some, that may be winning the gold medal. But for some, that also just may be going to state championships, provincial championships in Canada. So it's what defines you. I don't want people to put limits on themselves. I want them to go out there. And when we talk about the gold medal moment, we just saw the Olympics, we just saw the Paralympics, and getting that moment in space and time that you can stand on top of whatever your virtual podium is and say, I did that, and move forward.
Well, before we go back in time, because I think your story is fascinating, it's very inspiring, I do want to talk about your gold medal moment. You've won 5 medals at the Olympics, and one was a gold.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like for you to stand on the podium, hear your national anthems, watch your flag go up into the air? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was very special. It was a 4x100 medley relay. It was way back in Sydney 2000, and being able to share it with the 3 other guys in the team. In addition to the fact that we won the gold medal, we also set the world record. So that was really, really special to be able to go on that podium and know instantly when you have that gold medal around your neck that everybody's going to call you a champion for the rest of your life. And one thing I'm very proud of is not only that I had that performance, but I'm able to take that gold medal and go into businesses and going to schools and universities and different organizations and having that tangible item to show people. And they put it around their neck, and it's heavy, and it's just a great symbol of accomplishment that I try to relate to other people in my audiences that I did this. What are you going to do? What are you going to go after?
Where do you keep your gold medal? Just curious.
Actually in a drawer in my bedroom, just because I would have it on display, but because I'm going to go doing keynotes, I have to have it kind of ready to go sometimes at a moment's notice. So it's just there with my gold medal from World Championships, my gold medal from Commonwealth Games, my bronze medal from the 1992 Paralympics. So it's in good company, but it's I always know where it is. I'm always checking, where's my gold medals? Figure it out.
TSA never pulls you aside, says, "What's this?"
Sometimes sometimes you're going through security and they take a look at the medals and they say, "What are these?" And you say, "Well, it's a Paralympic gold medal. It's a World Championship gold medal." And you would think that would bring a smile to their face, but sometimes they just say, "Oh, okay," and then away you go. So it's a unique scenario going through security, but I think some people are impressed, although I don't think sometimes they're allowed to say it too loudly.
So let's go back in time. Your journey starts with definitely some tough times. Can we walk through your story?
Yeah, sure. So when I was 6 years old, many, many years ago, I was playing in our home in North Sydney, Nova Scotia, and Cape Breton Island here in Canada, and I fell. And my mom and dad were upstairs entertaining, came downstairs, and they took me to the hospital because I was in such great pain. As it turned out, through diagnosis, I had osteogenic sarcoma, commonly known as bone cancer, and a 35% chance to beat it. Fortunately for me, I was able to beat it, and then I had lung cancer, another 35% chance to beat it, and I was able to make it through that. So it was a trying time for me. But like all of us that are listening, and you and I, we have choices in our life, and those choices help reshape, redefine, and refocus what we think is possible. And I always thought it was possible to be able to beat this. And outside love, hope is the strongest word to me anyways in the English dictionary. And for everybody listening that's going through trials and tribulations and tough times, we need to be able to hold on to the hope the best we can to be able to make it through so we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, which I did.
So how far apart was, I mean, bone cancer and then lung cancer? These are obviously really serious things. How far apart were they?
So they were about, diagnosis was probably about 15 months apart. So we're talking about October of 1980 for the diagnosis of my leg. And then January of 1982, ironically enough, it was on my birthday. They told me, happy birthday to me. And then that's the other fight. So losing my leg was hard enough, obviously. And getting fitted with a prosthetic device, especially at that age when you're young and impressionable and you've got kids in school, and it's a hard time. And then to be able to have to face it with the lung surgery, which a lot of people, you may not know, but the medical types would, that if it goes from one area of your body to another area of your body, that's typically not a really, it's a really bad thing. But thankfully we got it early, and they caught it all, and the rest is history.
So how old were you when they had to amputate your leg?
I was 6 when it happened to my leg, and then I was 8 when it happened to my lung. And ironically enough, because it was happening in the early 80s, it was exactly around the same time Terry Fox was starting his Marathon of Hope, doing his thing. So it was a really weird thing because I had never gone through cancer. I didn't know anybody with cancer. And then all of a sudden this freak break happened, and then I'm thrust into this world where, let's face it, I didn't want to be a part of. But it was there, so it was a sobering time. But thankfully, we got through it.
For those listening, Terry Fox is a Canadian hero. He had lost his leg from cancer, and then he decided to run across Canada. And he only got, I don't think he got halfway across, but he ended up passing away. And that's whatever, 40 years ago. I don't even know how many years
40
ago.
years ago.
I remember it
Yeah,
as a
it's about
kid.
that. Yeah.
But now every September in Canada, kids across the nation do what's called the Terry Fox Run. And I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars have been raised for cancer research because of that. How do you process at 6 that they are going to amputate your leg? Or is it almost better when you're young because maybe it doesn't mean as much? I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's
Not
hard.
that it doesn't mean as much, but like you haven't lived as much life, and so you're trying to process things.
Yeah, I think at that point it's just you're just trying to survive. My son is 8 now, and when he was 6, I kind of was thinking the same thing. Like, how would he have felt if it had happened to him? How would any normal 6, almost 7-year-old felt if it happened to them? You are old enough to kind of know what's going on, but young enough to know that you don't truly understand and know what is happening. So I think we just kind of fought the best we could given the circumstances. I think it was extremely new for my mom and dad, extremely new for my brother, extremely new for all my friends to be able to go through something like this. So I think you just, the fight or flight kind of thing where I just stayed and fought the best I could. And I think that fighting mentality comes through in my keynotes because, I often said back in 1996, I was racing and I got disqualified in Atlanta at the Paralympics. And one of the quotes I made was, beating cancer was my biggest battle. So if I'm disqualified, it's bad, but it's, so what? Those things will happen. So I just make sure that I'm just always fighting no matter what. Even if the dark is seemingly never going to end, you have to keep fighting, keep pushing, because hopefully, again, go back to hope, those better times are on the way.
When you then got diagnosed with lung cancer, did you have to go through chemo?
Yes. So again, the hair fell out, hair grew back. The chemotherapy, and the thing is, back then, is chemotherapy didn't react well to light. So having it dark all the time. So you can imagine the trials and tribulations of having to fight chemotherapy and knowing this cancer is in your body, let alone being in a dark room, and nurses and doctors coming in and not. So it wasn't obviously fun, and I took a drug called bleomycin. I got an allergic reaction to it. Doctors are around trying to figure out if I'm going to live or die. So there was a lot going on there, but the chemotherapy for my lung, for my leg, saved my life, but it was a tough time.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. When I was 7, I was out behind the barn on the ranch with one of my friends. It was Sunday morning, and we decided we wanted to play with gasoline. And so, we had gas tanks, and we went out and we had gunpowder and gasoline and matches. And so nothing good is going to come of this. Anyways, I had this fire going, but I wanted the fire to be bigger. And so I took a pail of gasoline and I stood over the fire and I poured it. And of course, it just basically exploded and I was on fire. Well, anyways, I almost died, but spent an entire summer in the hospital in the burn ward. But when I came back, I had these burn scars, this glove on my hand and my arm. But I was very fortunate that all my scars were, in a sense, underneath clothing. But still, when I look back, I just developed habits of hiding my scars that I didn't even notice. Even in my adult life, I would just do things that would hide these scars. And then I would notice, like, oh, I still hide this. But when you lose your leg and you've got to show back up for, 3rd grade, there's no hiding that. Do you remember your first day back to school?
I don't necessarily remember my first day back to school, but I remember quite specifically being in Florida at Disney and Epcot and Wet n Wild and wearing sweatpants and it was really hot. Like, we're talking 90 degrees to 100 degrees hot in Florida. And I'm wearing sweatpants because I wouldn't want to wear shorts because I didn't want people to see me with an artificial leg. And going home to our hotel that night and taking my artificial leg off and soaking my stump in cold water for like half an hour because of the blisters and whatnot. I was very, very, very conscious of somebody seeing me without my leg on. It was only until I started my competitive swimming career that I let go of that to a certain extent. Now, I still wear longer shorts to my knees because I don't want people to see my artificial leg, but I am much more comfortable talking about it. And let's face it, 35 years ago now, in terms of the disability when it happened, the world was a different place when it comes to many different things, not the least of which the acceptance of somebody with a disability. Back then, somebody had a disability, it's like, oh, you poor dear, let's help you. You know what? Can I do anything for you? You were almost kind of written off to a certain degree. Nowadays, you're empowered. You take a look at the Paralympics and what those athletes could do. You take a look at any kind of disabled person, and they're probably a lot more empowering than they ever have been, and continue to do so. So it's a different time when I was going through it. I'm still not perfect in terms of my mindset on it, but I'm a lot better, and I know that I can deal with it. And I'm really proud of my swimming career. I'm really proud of what I accomplished, and I wouldn't have been able to accomplish that had I been sort of quote unquote able-bodied. So you take the good with the bad, and that just happened to be the way it was.
Well, you answered my next question, which was going to be, if none of this had ever happened to you, does Andrew Haley ever stand on the gold medal podium?
I'd like to think yes, but who knows? I'd like to think that I would have been certainly athletic. I saw somebody going for a run this morning, and my daughter asked the question, she's 13, why do people wake up at 7 in the morning and go for a run? And I thought to myself, well, to stay healthy, to stay fit, it's nice in the morning, but I can't run. So I never would be getting up at 7 in the morning. I would get up at 7 in the morning or earlier than that to go swimming, but not necessarily go running. So I'd like to think that I would have that inside of me because I've always had that passion for excellence. Would it have been swimming? Who knows? Hockey? Perhaps, but that's an unknown factor. But what is known is the success that I had in the pool and I'm proud of it. Now, the other question is, would I go back and give up my fight if I had to do it all over again? Would I have lost my leg? And that's a tricky question, because on one time, I would love to have been able-bodied and see what I could accomplish, but on the other time, being disabled and having one leg has given me so much, so it's a tricky question.
You brought up an interesting point I hadn't thought about, that back in the 80s, having a disability, that messaging constantly coming at you, you poor thing, that's very disempowering from hearing that message over and over. I think, as you said, society's gotten a lot better. But that brings, we can segue into another point there about the people that we surround ourselves with. And so let's talk about that for a moment. How important is it, the people that are around your life, and how that relates to your success?
I would say they're probably everything. Those people, tuning into this know what a team is. If you ask them, have you ever been part of a team? Yes, I've been part of a team. But did you know that team stands for together everyone achieves more? And there's nothing that I could have done without the support of my mom and dad, family, friends, and even in my swimming career, sponsors, physios, chiros, Swimming Canada, Sport Nova Scotia. Like, there's so many different groups that have supported my career along the way that there's no way that I could have been able to accomplish any of it on my own. I may stand on top of a podium, and going back to the gold medal moment, the person that accomplished that may stand on top of their own virtual podium, wherever that placing happened to be. But regardless of your first or 20th or 50th, you're not doing that alone. It's just impossible. It's just impossible. And I think most people listening to this, if not everybody, would agree with that.
Well, let's go back and speak about your earliest team, your family, and especially your parents. For those listening, many of you have kids, and you think about the challenges your kids go through, bullying and all this stuff. Andrew, what did your parents do that helped you the most from a resiliency and a mindset perspective during all those dark days?
I think the one thing I look back on is that day. So it was January 16th, 1982. I turned 8 years old, and the doctors came into my hotel room, my hospital room, and they told my mom and dad, because I thought that I was only having one chemo treatment left for my leg, and they told my mom and dad that the bone cancer had now spread to my lung. My mom and dad came to the side of the bed, without missing a beat, said to me, "Andrew, we're not going to go home right now. We're going to continue to stay in the hospital. There's still a little bit more fighting to do." But they didn't tell me exactly what was wrong. They just said that I needed to stay. And because they didn't tell me what was happening, they gave me the hope to continue the fight. If they had told me that I had cancer again, and they told me there was more chemo, if they told me there was more operations, maybe I would have got down and dejected. But what they did is they only gave me positivity, despite the long odds that were faced against me. So I think that moment was a real catalyst, turning point moment in what I was accomplishing, because they allowed me to have hope. They shouldered the burden of the disease and what it potentially could do to me, but they never threw that back onto me in terms of what the implications would be should we not be successful in this journey. So I think I would go back to that moment specifically, because it was such a powerful turning point, that you're not lying, you're shielding a diagnosis, because you know that in doing so, you'll be better off, hopefully, down the long run. And let's make no mistake as well. There's a lot of kids, a lot of patients dying around me. We would make friends with people the night before, during the course of the journey, only to wake up the next morning and they had passed away. So it was hard. So to be able to make it through, sometimes I like to think that, God had a higher power for me. That's why He let me live, where I could go on and then become this swimming champion that I became. But it's hard to know. But I'd like to think that there was a specific reason that I'm left where I am.
Well, your parents sound amazing. And in your TED Talk that you just did recently, you talked about 7 steps. And I want to get into those in just a moment. But before we do, I want to go back to what you said about hope. You said outside of love, you think hope is the strongest of all the emotions. And I agree with that. But let's talk about hope is one of those things that when we lose it, right, things can get really dark. And what would you say, Andrew, for people who are listening and who are facing something? Like, everyone is always facing something. It's like Plato said, right?
Yeah.
Be kind because everyone's carrying a heavy load. And what I find, at least even in my own life at times, if I'm always trying new things and most things don't work, right? So I'm always learning by failing. But sometimes that failure feels sedimentary. Like, it's just like the layers stack up. And it's almost like it requires even more resilience at some point. But how does somebody stay hopeful when things look really dark?
Yeah, so there's a distinction between failure and feeling defeated. People who feel failure hopefully will use that as a stepping stone to learn and continue to move back to where you need to go. But if you feel defeated, that's where you start to lose your hope. I think that it also comes with surrounding yourself from the onset with a great support network. So if you fall down a little bit, people are like, oh, come on, you can do this. It's like if you're training for something, a triathlon or whatever the case may be, piano recital, track and field, have that buddy, have that person with you that's going to be your conscience to say, you know what, let's go, you're going to do it. Helps you get out of bed in the morning to do your 7 a.m. run or, work out at night because you don't want to because you had a long day at the office. When you're dealing with a disease and something that's potentially, inflicting you, that's a different kind of fight. Because sometimes we don't choose those types of battles, just like my lung cancer. And it's easy sometimes to get dejected and down and feel, why me? Why is this happening to me? And God knows I've asked those questions, like, why do I have cancer twice? My twin brother didn't have cancer once. But the reality is, I think we just need to be as positive as we can. And if you can't be positive, find other people who are going to be positive for you. Find other people who are going to, if you fall, they're going to get you and prop you back up. If you've got negative days, you're going to continue on. It's like Winnie the Pooh and Piglet said, today's a good day for a great day. We need to be able to have great days every day, but every day is not going to be great. But there's great in every single day. So is the overall day going to be great? Maybe not. But you can find these little nuggets of greatness in every single day. And if you're having a bad day, go find yourself some positivity wherever you can get it from and use that as a stepping stone to get to the point where you're going to have way more positivity. Things are going to get a little bit better. And I can assure you, I think a few days ago was National Day or something related to suicide prevention. And there's a lot of people these day and age that are thinking about suicide because life's hard and we need to be stronger than that. That's why you have people around you. That's why knowing full well that people care about you. People care about, what you're going through. And it may seem like it's a tough battle, just like I went through. But you're going to have people on your side. So anytime we're going through the steps of trying to find your gold medal moment, your dream, your purpose, your why, it always centers around the support network. Believing in yourself, of course, is one, but the support network to get you where you need to go, because not every day is going to be great, but hopefully you can be spurred forward by those individuals who want to see you being successful.
By the way, you're the first one on the show to ever drop a Winnie the Pooh analogy, but it's fantastic. It's great. So
there's a lot of good ones there, but anyways.
I love that show. So one of your friends phones you and something big is going on in their life. Maybe they're going through divorce. Maybe they just found out they have cancer. Maybe their business is failing. Maybe they are in a soul-sucking workplace, but they feel like they can't get out. And they call you up and they utter the words, I don't know if I can do this. What does Andrew Haley say in that moment?
Well, I think I would go back to, the moment where I had a 35% chance to beat it. And it was easy to say, I don't think I can do this as a small child. But I was able to overcome it. I was able to fight it. I'm a small town kid, as you are, growing. I grew up in Nova Scotia. And there's a lot of people who were not against me, but a lot of people who didn't believe that I could become a world champion. to which I did. So if somebody was to call me, I would summon the there's better days ahead. You know, there's situations where we need to continue to fight through it. You know, I'm in a situation right now where I'm kind of in between jobs because, from a work perspective, because I was in a situation where the job was soul sucking, to be honest with you. So it's not an easy proposition to go through. But myself and others, again, it goes back to that support network. So I probably would make sure that I was talking to that person every couple days, every day if I had to, you know, and I would tell that person that you can call me anytime you want. You know, I don't want to see you down. I don't want to see you hurting yourself because you don't think you can continue on. Because the reality is everybody matters. Everybody matters to somebody, whoever that happens to be. And one of the things I do in my speeches, my last sort of slide that I give, and I'll give it away now, is you don't have to conquer the world. You just have to conquer your world. And if you conquer your world and you're focused on, you know, those small steps, and you're not thinking about the past, and you're not thinking about the future, and you're just thinking about the present and staying in the present moment, hopefully going through those steps will get you through to where you need to go and live a better and healthier life. You know, I've got a friend, I'm not going to name his name, but I have a friend who tried to commit suicide a couple times because he didn't think that he could go on. And now he is doing extremely well, a speaker, a Paralympic athlete, and those are dark times. So I would offer my support unwavering to that individual because we all need to care for each other.
We definitely all need people like that in our corner. Andrew, when was the moment that the seed got planted for you that, hey, I want to go to the Olympics? Because, you know, you're a small town Canadian kid. What happened to ignite that flame?
I would say it's actually more kind of a fluke than anything else. I enjoyed sports despite my disability. I played golf, not very good. I played baseball, not very good. I played, you know, tennis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then when I found swimming, because my aunt knew the national coach for athletes with a disability at the time. They worked for the same company. It was complete serendipity. And so he gives me a call and says, "Hey, Andrew, would you like to, you know, become a competitive swimmer? And if you become a competitive swimmer, then you can potentially travel." And I'm like, that sounded like a really cool thing to me. And I took up swimming that not long thereafter, and the rest is history, if you will. So I went from, before we talked about the phobias of people seeing me with my artificial leg and whatnot, to being able to go into the pool and not really caring. Because at that moment in my time, the pool was my oasis to just live my best life. I was in a pool, I had no artificial leg on, no metal, and I was happy, and I continued on as a career.
Well, let's dive into your 7 steps that you talk about for having our gold medal moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so essentially the first one, you just have to believe that you can do it. You know, that's it doesn't go past the belief that you are, whatever effort you're putting in. If I'm going to go into a workout, I have to know with all my heart that I can be a world champion one day. So that kind of help. You want to make sure that you limit distractions. You want to make sure that you're focusing on what you can focus on. So that also is important. There's also going to be a situation where, you know, in the 7 steps I talk about goal setting, but I also talk about performance goal setting. And the things that set it aside for me in terms of performance goal setting was goal setting we talk about all the time in business and in life. But I want to make sure that any goals that I'm setting were going to get me to, in my world, the top of the podium. So I thought that was really, really important as well.
I want to ask you, sorry to interrupt, I wanted to ask you about that because you had said, I was watching your TED Talk and you were talking about how of course, believe in what you're doing, right? Believe in yourself, right? Overcoming obstacles, not being distracted, which you just mentioned. Making sure you're not focused on the outcome, but the process. And then the fourth was performance goal setting. And so I was curious about that because, we understand the importance of goal setting. So what's the difference between I want to win the gold medal versus a performance goal?
I want to win the gold medal is an outcome, whereas the performance goal is the steps you're going to take in order to get that particular outcome. So one time I was sitting down with my coach at a competition, and he said, Andrew, what are you going to go in the 200 individual medley? 50 meters at each stroke, butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, freestyle. And I said, well, coach, I'm going to go this for my butterfly, I'm going to go this for my backstroke, this for my breaststroke, this for my freestyle. He said, you sure? I said, yes, because I've been doing those in training, and I'm ready for those particular times. He said, all right, go after it. There's never talk about a gold medal. There was never talk about a final time. There was talk about the process of getting to the end of the race. When I finished the race, I broke the world record because my cumulative times over the course of the 4 strokes made it so where I became the best in the world at the 200 individual medley short course, 25-meter pool versus the 50-meter pool at that particular point in time. Had I talked about world records, had I talked about the outcome, winning a gold medal, which still would have been probably fine, but you're not focusing on what you can control. I can't control somebody going faster. One time I swam to an individual medley at World Championships. I finished second, but broke the world record. Why? Because somebody broke the world record ahead of me, and he won the gold medal. So there will be those moments that'll come up that sometimes get away from you, and that's why you just have to focus on what you can focus on, what you can control.
Gotcha. So for those listening, I think this is such an important point because we all get told, hey, have goals and have big dreams, and of course those are important. But in the execution of that, it's breaking those down into, okay, let's talk about my performance, which is really about like, let's live today. Like, what can I do today? So I think your point about focusing on what we can control is so powerful. All right,
let me share this. Let me share this story before we continue on. So one time I wanted to win, I wanted to beat one athlete. So everybody else in the race was able-bodied, but me, the disabled guy. So I wanted to beat Timmy. And I swam the race, and I didn't beat anybody. He beat me. I went back. I just got dejected. I talked to my coach. He said, how did that go? I'm like, well, did you see that I lost? He says, I didn't see it that way. And I was getting mad because I'm like, well, what way did you see it? I was dead last. He said, what was your best time? I told him it was 1 minute and 20 seconds going into the race. He said, what did you go? I said, 1 minute, 18 seconds. He says, do you know what you did? Again, I snapped back. I lost. He says, no, Andrew, you just set a personal world record. And anytime we hear world record associated with our name, you perk up. You're like, what do you mean I set a world record? But in this case, what he meant, but he did it on purpose, was you just got a best time. And you should be happy with the best time. He said, however, you weren't focused on the race. You were focused on Timmy. You weren't focused on your start. You weren't focused on your turn. You weren't focused on your propulsion of your stroke. You were focused on another athlete. He said, I guarantee you, if you go back home and focus on what we can control, you'll do a lot better. And once I started focusing on what I could control, again, my start, my turn, my propulsion, eating properly, those types of things, not only did I start beating Timmy, I beat a lot of other people that I didn't think I could beat. The moral of the story is, forget about the things you cannot control. That's going to eat you up inside. When in my speaking, I talk about energy systems. There's things that's going to drive you, and there's things that are going to drain you. And if you're worried about things you can't control, it's going to drain you. But if you're worried about things you can control, that'll give you the energy and the power and the motivation to continue on, and that will drive you. So I want to make that distinction for everybody because I think it's really important to be able to always control what you can control.
When your coach, that was such a great conversation your coach had with you. So when he said you just set a personal world record, was he meaning like that was your personal best, but he added the word world in to kind of give it impact, or that was right. An actual it was an actual world record time?
No, it wasn't a world record at all. It was you've never gone faster anywhere in the world than you have right now. So let's just pick a random spot in the States. Let's say one of my favorite spots because I love training down there in Phoenix, Arizona. So if somebody in Phoenix, Arizona, in Tempe is training, and they just ran, the 4-minute mile seemed to be a big thing. So let's say they just ran 3:56. I don't know what the world record is in the mile, but maybe it's 3:40. Let's say whatever it is. That's their world record. That's their gold medal moment. And for me, that was my gold medal moment because he put it in such a way where I was taking extra attention to what I was accomplishing. So that I knew that I'd never gone faster anywhere in the world. So it was a really neat way of playing with the words until I started breaking world records for real. Then it wasn't a personal world record. It was just you just set an overall world record.
I'm going to start using that. I'm going to start using that in my life. Personal world record.
And I would recommend anybody listening to this, we've talked about people with kids, use that for kids. If you're a coach, if you're a parent, use that because you'll be amazed if you said to little Johnny that you just set a personal world record. Hopefully they'll spring up like, what do you mean I just set a personal world record? If you said best time, best times is we all set best times, hopefully, with what we're doing. But the personal world record, that just gives that little bit more oomph. Use that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to go for some personal world records this week. Love that. Number 5 on your list of 7 has to do with never giving up.
Yeah, so that's a really personal one for me, and it may resonate with a lot of people listening, especially in the United States. But back in the early 90s, a basketball coach, Jimmy Valvano, from Rutgers Basketball, was at the ESPY Awards, the ESPN Sport Awards, and he was dying of cancer. And he sat up on the stage, and he was giving this passionate speech, and it was an amazing speech. You have time to watch. And he talked about, having cancer, and it's through his body, and just fighting and keep going on. And he talked about a foundation that he was starting with ESPN, the Jimmy V Foundation. And he said to the audience, don't give up. Don't ever give up. And the don't give up, the first one for me was because of my leg cancer, the bone cancer. That's the first don't give up. The second don't ever give up was an ode to my lung cancer. So for me, it was both the cancers. So when I'm going through my 7 steps and I'm picking something that's important to me to be able to continue to move forward in dark times, that's why I have these 7 steps. It's to go through it if I'm ever feeling a little bit down on myself. I know that these 7 steps will get me back where I need to go. And be able to have that, don't give up, don't ever give up, was just, it's a really powerful message to say, like, I went through a lot of, bad stuff in my day. Like a lot of people listening are going through some bad stuff. And take these 7 steps and utilize them for your own purposes and change them up to the best you need to.
Step number 6, all about balance.
Yeah, so, they say that take a break before you break. A lot of times you can continue to go, and sometimes you're pushed really hard and pushed to the limits in sport, and that's fine. But you need those times where you can just take a step back. My step back was on Sundays. I'd love to watch football. I would sleep in. I didn't go out many times on Saturday night late or drinking because I knew my one day to be amazing was Sunday. So then I could go and prove to everybody how great I was in the pool Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because we had a pretty exhausting training schedule with what we were traveling with. So I always wanted to go refreshed and relaxed for work on a Monday morning, essentially owning the work on a Monday and every other day. So that was important to just make sure that it was always there to just remind myself that it's okay to take a break. A step back, maybe 2 steps forward. It's okay to have that little bit of breather because we all going to need, otherwise we're just going to burn out.
And step 7.
Yeah, so team, I alluded to it about together everyone achieves more, and it's really important in terms of all the audiences that I talk to that they know that they're part of the team. I've talked to so many great organizations that are doing amazing things, that support their employees, that have resource groups that are supporting employees. So from a personal perspective at work or a professional perspective at work, a personal perspective in what you're doing, always knowing that everybody out there will support you. That team around you, surround yourself with great individuals that will help prop you up to where you need to go. I've been fortunate to be on many great teams, But with every great team that I've been on, there's been a team behind, as we've alluded to, my parents and my sponsors and a bunch of others. So that sort of is what I'd like to end off with, because it's I think it's an empowering thing to always, support each other.
So those in review, believe in yourself, overcome obstacles and not get distracted. Make sure you're focused on outcome, not, or make sure you focus on the process, not the outcome. Make sure you're doing performance goal setting. Don't give up, never give up. Make sure you have balance in your life, and together we achieve more having a team around you. Fantastic. Yeah. I love that.
And I'm also too, like, I don't know if you have documentation. I'm happy, you feel free to share. I have information. Oftentimes in my talks, I provide that as a resource, after the fact. So if somebody is, maybe missed that or wants some information, I'd recommend, contact you. You can contact me, and we can get them the information if they really want to, drive down a little bit deeper on this.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have your links in the show notes, but just for anyone listening, because maybe you're in the car and you can't type something in, but what's the best way to get a hold of you, Andrew, if somebody would love to chat or interested in having you come in and talk to their company?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that. So Andrew at andrewhaley.ca. So ANDREW at ANDREWHALEY.ca. Also my website, this is www.andrewhaley.ca. So there's many different ways to reach me up. I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and all the other social media channels. And I'd be more than happy to speak to you for a corporate event, or if you just have a question in terms of like an elite athlete and you're a triathlete and you want to continue swimming and you want to do something, or if you've heard something in this show that you're feeling a little bit down about and it's resonated with you and you think that that's going to help me, move forward in life, reach out. You have my time.
We're going to have all those links in the show notes, and you might have people contacting you, especially when I asked you about what would you say to your friend who calls you, and you gave such a great response. A lot of people don't have a friend like that, so you might have people giving you a call.
Yeah, well, I hope everybody does have something like that, but at the same time, we just need to believe that we have everybody on this call has value, has worth, and people care. And if you have a dark time, know that there's better days ahead. There was for me, and there will be for you.
What's Andrew Haley's next gold medal moment?
There's been a couple recently because I just finished my MBA, so that was sort of where it was. But I think the next gold medal moment is basically just helping. Honestly, I want to get into analytics a little bit. I want to get a little bit more data. So data seems to be king in the business world these days, and I'm really looking forward to. I have a speech here in Toronto in November, and it's on artificial intelligence. So my next gold medal moment is going to be somewhere along the lines of artificial intelligence and data and analytics. So those are some of the different things that I hope would be a little bit of an offshoot from the MBA that I just graduated with.
Well, for those listening, if you want to find out more about Andrew, of course, you can go to his website. Also, all those links will be in the show notes. Go to jamesrobbins.com/podcast and look up this episode for Andrew Haley. Andrew, I just want to say thanks for being on the show. And I wanted to close out by just saying that I've been inspired by this conversation, to hear your story, to hear your journey, and then how you're now using that to inspire other people, companies, even individuals, and all the work that you're doing, because people just need hope, right? And I think even now more than ever, there's just so many things going on in the world that feel dark, that feel heavy, and it's challenging. It's challenging for young people as well. Think about my kids who, are in their 20s, and they're looking at the challenges of the workplace and buying houses and all that. There's just a lot of discouragement. And of course, the antidote to discouragement is hope, and so you're a spreader of that, and I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, and the other thing, thank you for that. And the other thing I want to mention is any group that gets me in to do a keynote, I also offer a complimentary virtual keynote for a nonprofit or a school. So if you are a business out there looking to have me come into your event, but you also want to support a charitable organization or school in your area, that's on the table as part of the whole full keynote fee.
Well, that's an excellent offer. All right, Andrew, we are out of time, sadly, but it's just been fantastic to talk with you, and thanks for being on the show.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. Good luck, everybody.